Adoption and expensive. Two words that do not always belong together. There are 120,000 children in the United States that are waiting for a forever family, and adopting through this option is extremely affordable. I'm Marcy Bursack, an adoptive mom of a sibling pair, and also the author of The Forgotten Adoption Option. Twice monthly, I will interview people like adoptive parents and adopted children who have been touched by foster care adoption. My goal is to find more forever families and increase awareness about foster care adoption, because if it were you or me, we would want someone to do this for us. Welcome to the Forgotten Adoption Option podcast. This episode is about an adult who was in foster care as a child, but was never adopted. She lives in Mississippi and is my very first guest with a Southern accent. We met through a mutual friend. Isn't that fun? We met through a mutual friend who knew of our shared passion for children in foster care, and also that we were both in the process of writing a book about different aspects of foster care. My book, The Forgotten Adoption Option, spells out how to adopt waiting children through the foster care system. Her book, well, I'll let her tell you more about that. CJ has overcome many obstacles and has stood on her own 2 feet in countless ways. I'm so eager for you to hear her story. And CJ, I am honored to have you here on my podcast. Welcome.
Yep, thank you. I'm honored to be here. I so appreciate the invitation, Marcy. Thank you.
Just amazing. Yeah, we had an opportunity to talk a few months ago, and it's just been your journey's exploded. So I'm just going to dive right in because there's so much I feel like you can share. You're writing this book. It has this powerful title, Obliterating the Odds, which is like crushing the odds, about your own personal foster care story. What are you hoping to accomplish by writing your story down?
Well, to tell you what I hope to accomplish, I'd really have to tell you what it is. So Obliterate the Odds is really a journey of tragedy to triumph, and it's loosely based on my experiences of spending time in the foster care system, and it's mixed with other stories that I've heard over the years. And it's really about just overcoming those statistics or those odds that someone has to be successful despite their less than desirable upbringing. It's written for foster parents or those interested in foster care to give them like maybe a clearer perspective from the child's point, and hopefully help them gain that sense of understanding to develop that relationship with their foster child. And it's also written for teens who are in the most vulnerable years of their lives. I mean, my hope is that they really see how the protagonist, Sam, experiences those tough situations and how they demonstrate resilience as they navigate the inevitable highs and lows of life. I really just want them to find hope in whatever real life situation they face. And so with the right influences and just a little bit of persistence, it'll pay. So that's what I'm hoping to accomplish.
Which is interesting, right? Because you're saying a little bit of persistence, and as we get into your story, I mean, you've had to do so many things where persistence was it. Like you just had to keep trying and keep doing things. And
persistence pays.
It does. Persistence totally pays. And the mutual friend, hi Lauren, that connected us introduced you to me as a successful woman in the financial services field. Can you share some people or factors that you think influence like your personal ability to become successful in career, having gone through the foster care system?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been really fortunate. I've had a lot of angels in my life. They've consisted of teachers and coaches, friends, parents, foster parents, even a friend of a friend's aunt who didn't know me from Eve when she took me in at 17. Her name is Peggy Hunter, and she really encouraged me to actually go to college and attend Mississippi State University. And I was so naive when I moved there. I didn't know you had to purchase this really expensive books for class. I just thought they were provided.
They are expensive too.
Gosh, it was astronomical, and it was way more than the $25 that I had in my pocket at that time. And so I went to the dean and explained my situation, and he was just so gracious. And he handed me $500 in vouchers and said, go get your books and supplies. And, he was certainly that integral part of my success in college that semester. And the angels don't end, when you grow up. So, I have a current angel, if you will. His name is Todd Martis, and I work closely with him as a tax consultant at his firm, and he's provided me with just amazing resources and just a wealth of knowledge to really become successful in what I do. But I could share stories after stories of things that laid my path to the financial industry, but those are just a few.
And CJ, something that stood out to me is you mentioned like you approached the dean, like you asked for help. What helped you know how to do that? Like that you were comfortable and that you knew where to go?
That's an interesting question. I wish I had more of a clear answer for you, because I've often looked back on my past and thought, how did I know to do this? Like, nobody's really taught me these things. How did I make it out alive, right? So I guess it was just, I knew I wanted to be successful, and I went to the people who I knew could help me get there. And so, like I said, I knew I had met the dean when I went with Peggy that time to tour the campus, and I remembered, where his office was, and I thought, okay, he will probably remember me, so maybe if I go back to him, he can, actually help me.
Which is huge. I mean, I don't know how many college faculty or staff could share a similar story, but that they were able to help you continue your education. Like that's huge. That's a huge, like you said, it's an angel. Like it's a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had tons of teachers and coaches along the way, who have taken me under their wings and given me that push and just that accountability as well. Somebody to kind of put their foot down and go, kind of keep me in line, but then nurture the talents that I had and help me get to where I am. So I'm beyond thankful.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, we were talking a little bit before we came on air, but part of why your story to me is so interesting and intriguing is because my husband's grandfather, Grandpa Sam, grew up in the 20s, and there wasn't foster care back then, but he basically was in foster care. Like he was at the mercy of whoever would let him stay in their grocery store or whatever the place was, a farm. And so this next question, CJ, just I see you as like a modern day Grandpa Sam in a very endearing way. And it's a very interesting question, but you had shared in an online interview that, because you never got adopted and Grandpa Sam never got adopted, that you said, I moved 35 times by the time I was 17 years old. And I hate saying that out loud, CJ, because I'm just like, that's ridiculous. Like, no one should have to do that. And in the moment, like, I'm sure things were moving and going, but like, how are you feeling as the kid in that story? And now, like, how do you process that as the adult looking back?
Yeah, that's an interesting question too. I mean, when you're growing up, life is just what it is, right? Like I didn't know any differently, and apparently I was just really good at suppressing traumatic events. But it wasn't really until I got into my 20s and began starting my family, and I had children, and I realized then I realized how utterly dysfunctional my childhood was, and then I was immediately flooded with all of these memories of growing up and these situations, and I just thought, man, I have these kids here, I would never do that to them. And then that made me really start analyzing everything, and it really, I mean, it just opened up a lot of wounds for me personally, things that like I said earlier, I had suppressed. And obviously when you start dealing with things like that, I think your natural response for most people is just to become angry. And so I spent a lot of time working through that emotion, and obviously others, to get to a point where I could even speak about it, especially in public. And even still, I get emotional on stage. So it's a work in progress.
Which I think is real, right? I mean, you're telling your story, and I think that suppressing trauma is a healthy defense mechanism at times. So, great job doing that, right? Because it made you who you are. But to process all that, I love the human element in that it's like, yeah, sometimes we break down talking about the things we've gone through. And I'm so glad that you are talking about it, because there are youth today that are just a few years behind you, that are exactly where you were and aren't sure what to do. And you're such an encouragement.
Oh, well, thank you.
And CJ, you mentioned that, we just talked about how you aged out of the foster care system, so you weren't adopted. How have you built a strong support system for yourself? And how do you process, because you mentioned some of the anger, how do you process that you weren't adopted? What does that feel like as the adult?
So how have I built that support system is really through finding the people who love me for who I am, right? And will, people that I can obviously trust and feel safe with. And, if you don't have that growing up, you're like, okay, well, how do you know what to look for? Well, I've had to learn kind of the hard way that it's obviously through action. So if somebody is, treating you badly, then obviously you don't want to be friends with that person, right? But I've been fortunate to build my family, and I talk about this all the time. I have an incredible group of amazing, talented, and successful friends that I've managed to nurture these relationships for years. And these are people that are my family. I mean, I've spent Christmases and Thanksgivings. We've shared life's wins and losses with each other, and we call each other on a regular basis. I mean, it's and I feel like you have to have that. I mean, I share a quick story real quick. On my 35th birthday last May, my friends threw me this massive surprise birthday party, and I was so shocked. Like, I almost didn't go. And my friend Misty goes, "No, I need girl time. You need to be here right now." And so I was like, "Okay, I'm going. Fine, whatever. You need me, I'm there." But that's what we do for each other, right? And so I walk in, and it's just incredible. And all my girlfriends are there. They built this box cake, that they've had specially made, and they all went around the room and they said, my friend Michelle, her tradition is to go around the room and each person says one good thing or one memory of the birthday person. And she's a school teacher, and she's done that for her kids, years and years. But obviously, the room was just filled with so much emotion, and hearing all these amazing things that your friends, how they see you, was just very it was just very encouraging. And I turned to my children and I said, "This is why you need to build your friend structure. This is why you need to build out a family like this. This is why, because those are the people who, when things are wrong, they come help you, and they lift you up, right? So yeah, that's how I've been able to build that support system. And I apologize, I don't remember the second question.
Yeah, well, and that's an important piece to point out, because it's like you've built your family, and it's your support system to you is family, regardless if they're related by blood or friendship or whatever that might be, which is amazing. But the other piece is, I'm just curious, because you did not get adopted, and so how does that process as an adult? Is there a negative connotation in your head? What kind of thoughts go through your mind around the idea of being adopted?
It's difficult, to say the least. There are times where I have to look at my past and go, okay, this is a good thing that these things happen, because it built my character, it made me stronger, right? Because what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. But there are times too where you feel like, gosh, nobody's gonna love me, right? Like, my own family shunned me, or my own family didn't take me in, or I wasn't cared for the way that it should have been, right? You can kind of build out all of these what ifs in your brain, but it's just important to continue to kind of work through that. And like I said earlier, with the emotions and having to work through those parts of you who are kind of stuck in the past, but then helping them kind of connect to those parts of you that realize that you're not in the past anymore. Like, you're a successful businesswoman, and you have 3 amazing kids, and look at what you've been able to do. There's no reason to feel rejected or neglected or scared anymore. You finally did it. So that's been Certainly difficult. I think that's certainly, the hardest part for anybody who's experienced traumatic things, but it's imperative that you do try to, continue to work through those.
And the words that you just said, neglected and scared, like I can hear that, right? And CJ, can you share with us, how old were you when you went into foster care?
I was 8 years old, and I spent a short time in foster care. It was probably about a year that I was there, but then things were not stable after I got out. I mean, I still continued to move around, and it's like I was in foster care, but just not a ward of the state.
So were you kind of like moving around with friends and family wherever you could find stability for a period of time?
Yep, that was pretty much it. Wherever I could find a place to sleep and somebody that would take me in, then I was good with that. I mean, after I moved out of foster care, I went to live with my mother for a short time, and then I lived with a friend down the street, and then from there I lived with an aunt in a different city, and then moved to a different aunt in a different city, and finally at 16 I just went, you know what, I'm out. I'm done. Apparently nobody can take care of me, and that's cool. I'm going to graduate college at 16, or high school, at 16, and I don't care how much money I have, I'm going to figure out a way to go to college. So it was quite interesting.
Sounds like your characteristic of being driven was very real. That you were like, I'm just going to change my reality because this isn't what I want.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to, I guess, take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and just say, you know what, I don't like this, so I'm going to change it. And yeah, it's going to be hard, but at some point you've got to understand and realize that you really are the maker of your reality.
Okay, so with that, segueing into your recent huge news, you recently found your
So excited.
Yeah, you recently found your biological brother after a ton of searching. So what's going on, CJ? How did that happen?
Oh my goodness. I cannot begin to describe and properly articulate my emotions. I mean, they have just exploded. I mean, I'm so elated. I have been searching for him for nearly 2 decades. I mean, 18 and a half years, literally over half my life I've been searching for this man, and knowing that he was out there, and I could not find him. I kind of had a few tips here and there as to who he might be, but there was just not a whole lot of information. And I took this 23andMe test about 3 years ago, and I thought, okay, great. Surely these things are popular enough, right? Like I'm gonna find him through this thing. Like he's gonna take this test, and I got the results back, and unfortunately I didn't have anybody that matched enough DNA to be my brother. So I was obviously very disappointed, but I never gave up. I never gave up, and I downloaded the 23andMe app, and periodically I would check it, and I would see that the DNA relative that I had the most matching DNA would be 3.94%, and that was it. And I would check it. I know. I was just checking it all the time and thinking, gosh, I'm going to find him. And I thought a couple of months ago, maybe I need to take the ancestry test. Maybe he's taken that one and not the 23andMe. I don't know. But lo and behold, it's kind of it's a really long story, but I'll try to make it as short and concise as possible. But I'm just so excited about all the details, all the small details that came to be to help me find my brother were so crazy. I mean, from the settings on my Facebook, for instance, and I'll kind of start there, is you cannot add me on Facebook unless you're friends with friends, right? So my brother and I had no mutual friends, and he had a friend of his add me on Facebook. Well, I have, Marcy, when I tell you I have pages and pages of friend requests, I don't just add people just to add them, right? And so I'm looking at this guy's profile picture, and I'm like, who is this? And I kind of go through and I scroll through, and I see a picture of him with his daughter. He's dressed up in a Halloween costume. He's Peter Pan, his little girl is Tinkerbell. It's like the cutest thing ever. So I was like, okay, this guy looks kind of normal, and he's also I believe I saw a picture in a police officer uniform, and I thought, okay, I will bet he's somehow connected to a police department that I did a talk for. That's probably how I know him. I'll add him. The backstory to that is he immediately contacted my brother and was like, man, she added me. She actually added me. And this is, obviously Michael's telling me this, and Michael goes, oh, it's about to be on. And he added me, and so the same thing happened. I went, who is this Michael guy? And so I click on it, and oddly enough, I already have a friend with his same name. So I was like, oh, there's Michael. So I click on it, and I'm thinking, that's not Michael. That's not the Michael that I know. Okay, this guy has a family, has a wife, he has a kid. Maybe he has something to do with foster care. And so I added him, not thinking anything of it, not realizing I was looking at my brother, nothing. Yeah, and so I was on the couch with a friend Friday night, and we were looking at Messenger, which I hardly ever check either, by the way. So if you message me on Facebook, I'm probably not going to get it for at least 6 months. But for whatever reason, I decided to check Messenger. I don't know what I was checking for, but I saw where Michael had messaged me, and I saw Crystal Fox in the header. And so you would go by CJ now, but people in my early life know me as Crystal. So that was very intriguing to me, and I thought, okay, somebody from my past knows me. They're trying to reconnect. I open it up. I see Crystal Fox. My brain immediately goes to the numbers of 23andMe. I'm like, okay, this is a relative. And then I see 23% matching DNA. And I dropped the phone. And I flew off the couch. And I put my hands to my head, and I was just pacing the room. And, of course, my friend is like, what is it? Like, is everybody okay? Is everything fine? What's going on? And my jaw dropped, and I said, I found my brother. I actually found my brother. And she goes, what? I'm like, yeah. And then she picks up my phone, and she clicks on his profile, and she's like, well, he looks normal. I'm like, that's great. Oh my God, I found my brother. It was so crazy. And so I immediately messaged him, and I just said, oh my God, I finally found you. Please call me. And so he called me within just a few minutes, and we were literally on the phone for 6 hours. And from 11:30 p.m. at night till 5:30 a.m. in the morning. I mean, we just did not stop talking. We laughed, we cut up, I helped him, put together the pieces to his puzzle, because this is mind-blowing for him. I mean, he just found out 8 days ago he has a sister, and I've known this for 18 years, so, I mean, it was just incredible the way that we were, able to just pick up like we never, like we never knew each other. I mean, it was just, or like we always knew each other, rather. He's just an incredible person, and I'm so thankful, because this could have turned out so many different ways. But this is absolutely 100% the best case scenario, because I absolutely already adore my brother. I mean, he is a police officer here in Mississippi, and just things that he's done for the community. And we've lived very parallel lives, from the way that we grew up to really trying to overcome that and make the world a better place. I mean, it's just amazing. And like I told you earlier, I would not be surprised if he has a few Superman capes in his closet, because that's what he is to me. And I'm so thankful that he's my brother, right? This really incredible
Such an incredible gift. Well, and you're making me want to say, like, Mr. Incredible wears a cape. Like, maybe he's Mr. Incredible. I don't know.
Yes. I'm telling you, he is. I'm telling you. I believe it.
And there's CJ, it's amazing. And I love that like you get to share this when it's fresh and just happened, and you're not still hunting and searching, but there's so much to unpack here. And it's interesting to hear how quickly you guys have connected, and this whole note that you said about how he was normal, right? Like, there's such a risk because you don't know what you're digging up. So I wonder, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot, but I just wonder, because I know there are other people that are trying to reconnect with family, and maybe they have a foster care story, maybe they have a different story, but do you have any advice? Because I know you didn't really get to like censor who this guy would turn out to be, but do you have any advice or encouragement to people that are trying to find family members?
Just look, and if you find them and you don't like them, then that's okay. At least you know. I mean, really, just figure it out and find out everything there is to know about that person, and let the chips fall where they may. I mean, you you would have more to lose by not locating that person, I think. Versus being scared. I mean, I almost let fear really, hinder my process for finding my brother, because I thought, man, what if he doesn't want to know about me? What if he's, had a great life, and he, finds this out, that he has this sister out there, and I've come in and disrupted him some way, or I've upset him, or, like, there's all these crazy things that you think about, or, like I said earlier, what if he's psycho?
Because anything's possible. Yeah.
I just, anything's possible. But I mean, I would absolutely just encourage anybody who's thinking about that to, absolutely reach out and look, just like we do with people in Walmart. I mean, you walk into a store, you don't know these people, but if you don't want to be around them, then you leave, right? It's the same scenario with your family. I mean, it's just fortunate enough that when I did meet him, I want to continue to be around him, and so I just hope that would be encouraging for people to.
And you did. You kept trying, and it turned out good for you, and maybe it will for others. Maybe if not, they'll know how to have healthy boundaries. Which is, I want to expand. You were talking a lot about fear for your own story, and I'm curious, kind of flipping the table a little bit. If you could tell someone that's considering becoming a foster parent, or someone that's interested in adopting a child, or more than one child through foster care, why they shouldn't let fear hold them back from helping children, what would you say?
That's an amazing question, because I get that a lot, because I hear a lot of people say, I couldn't be a foster parent because I would get too attached. And there's tons of sayings out there. If you think that you're going to get too attached, then you're perfect for this. I mean, you are absolutely perfect to be a foster parent. Some people may not want to foster, or they're fearful of fostering because they might not be able to adopt that child, or that child may struggle with some disability or therapy, or whatever, right? So maybe it might be too heavy for that family. But remember that even with our biological children, we're still rolling the dice, right? Like, we don't know what's going to happen with our children when they are born. We don't know if they're going to struggle or have a disability. All we can ever do is our best, right? Furthermore, it's really imperative that we remember that it's okay if you're not someone's forever family. Like I said earlier, I had a lot of angels who did a lot of little things along the way, and that's gotten me to where I am. And I always say at the end of my talks, you can't reach, rescue, or restore every child, but you can absolutely make the difference in the life of one, whether that is for a moment or long term.
Which is so powerful, because it's really about the moment and the child, and sometimes that means you're making a longer term commitment or a lifetime commitment, and sometimes it doesn't. And you mentioned that you speak on this and people ask you questions. So I want to kind of dig into your arsenal of what you get asked on the subject of foster care. What kinds of questions from the audience surprise you, and how do you answer those questions?
Yeah, a lot of people ask how they should find a way to have a deep conversation with their foster child. How to connect with them, how to get them to open up and process an event and work through it appropriately. And my answer is simple: engage. Just engage with them. I mean, get on their level. People don't care about what you know until they know how much you care, right? That's an old saying. But so when you get on their level, learn their interest, and get involved, then they'll see how much you care and begin to feel safe enough to be vulnerable to make that connection with you.
Because it's about the person. You're right. It's back to what you just said about it's about the one. It's about like giving attention and helping that child feel vulnerable and feeling trust and love.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. But it starts with having fun, and showing them that you do care about their interest and what they want to do.
If they see that you care about what they love, then they're going to open up to you.
Because you really want to build a friendship and a relationship.
Absolutely.
So good. So good. CJ, as we wrap up, so this is an interesting part because you and I both are attacking kind of making the foster care system better in different states, but on the same mission. And you and I can both agree that there are ways that the foster care system is actually set up to hold children back. So I'm curious, can you speak to what you're seeing in Mississippi where you're at and what you think could be done to help children really thrive within
Yeah, absolutely.
the foster care
I mean,
system?
I can say for certain a lot needs to be done on the political level. There's a fantastic TED Talk. It's called Rethinking Foster Care. And Molly really opens up a lot of the issues that and the need to change our perspective and approach to child welfare. Because I feel like, and what she feels like too, that we're we're just prolonging the damage to these children and families. But it's not just a political issue, right? I mean, we have more churches than children in foster care, and that's true for many states, and that's crazy. I mean, how can you have more churches than children in foster care? But that goes back to the political issue of, if you've got all of these children who are ready to be adopted, but then nobody's licensing them or licensing the families to adopt the children, then there's, it's a bottleneck effect, right? So, you've got, like I said, the things at the political level, you have things at the church level. And we can easily say that the churches aren't doing enough, or maybe they're not spending enough time on best practices. We could look at the community. We could say this is a community issue. If we know that someone doesn't have a bed for their child, our response should always be, how can I get a bed for that child, or how can, whatever the need is, right? But really what it boils down to, and what it always boils down to, is us as individuals. We have to ask ourselves, what is our piece to this puzzle, and how can we fit into this picture? And I think most people probably look at this epidemic of massive amounts of children who need homes. They look at this broken system. They look at their own chaotic life. And unfortunately, they probably throw their hands up and surrender. I mean, they get overwhelmed, right? So, but it goes back to the adage of, how do you eat an elephant? The answer to that riddle is one bite at a time, right? And remember that it was the little things that laid my path. Like I said, a lot of people did one or two things for me that provided that successful life. So I would say, don't get overwhelmed with the big picture. To do your part, start small. There's abundant amounts of foster care Facebook groups in your area. I promise they're out there. There's, wherever you live in the nation, there are Facebook foster care groups. And, those are things that you can, start connecting with foster parents and learning about the church realm and how to get certain programs started within your church, or do what you're doing, at the political level. Which is just huge and massive. And I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm so proud to know you, by the way, but a different story, different day. Right. But to be to your level, I mean, you had to start somewhere, right? Like, you had to go to Google and type in foster care, or, you had to, just open a book about foster care and adoption. So, again, it's just start small. I think that's how we're going to ultimately remedy the situation, is us as individuals, and finding what our part is in this whole big world, right, of foster care. And so, just be a piece to the puzzle.
I love all those things that you just said, CJ, because you're right. You do eat an elephant one piece at a time. And I think if you and I both think about ourselves, like, why did we decide to speak out on this, right? Like, why did we decide to write our books on this? And I know for my own story, it was like I couldn't stop thinking about, why hasn't someone done this yet? And I know that I need to do this because I know how to do this. And so it doesn't take a lot of time. It's just little steps. It's just, I can put an hour into this, or I can put an email into that. Or, like, for instance, even our podcast, it's me texting you and saying,
yeah,
hey, CJ, are we good? Are we still good for the planned time? And then we're taking an hour to record it. Right. And on your end, like, what would you say for you, like, really told you, like, you need to write the book?
Oh
What was your
goodness,
motivator?
that's an interesting story. I did not want to write my story. I wanted to keep it in the past, in the box with a pretty red bow. I'm going to stick it in the back of the attic, and that's where it needs to sit. Like, I am not unpacking that box, right? And I ended up sitting next to the former executive director of Sunnybrook Children's Home here in Mississippi, and just having a casual conversation with him at a luncheon. And I kind of opened up a little bit because I knew who he was, and he said, "Oh my gosh, you're less than 1% of the foster care population." And I looked at him like he had 13 horns on his head. I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Less than 1% of foster children graduate college." And I sat on that for days and days, and I really didn't know what I was going to do with that, but I just kept hearing his voice ringing in my head of, less than 1% of foster kids graduate college. And, I wanted to feel proud of that moment, but then it also made me feel really sick inside that's the actual statistic. That's crazy. And I still was not open about my story. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't really want to share that with the public. But one morning I was walking down the stairs, and, it just really hit me. I mean, God's talking to you, and he's saying, you got to write this book, CJ. You need to get something else out there. And I was telling God in my head, I was like, I am not doing that. I mean, I was acting like a 3-year-old with their parent. I am not doing that. I'm not putting on my shoes right now. But I just felt this huge, like, it was a physical energy that I felt as I was walking down the stairs that morning, and it said, write something down. And I went, fine, I'll do it.
Like the 3-year-old sitting and shouting on the floor.
That was me.
Yeah.
And so I took that statistic, and I went, you know what? I wonder what other statistics are out there, for foster kids in particular. And I just found these crazy ones, like, 2 out of 3 foster children, when they age out within 1 year, they end up in jail or homeless. That's crazy. We're losing 66% of our foster kids right there as they age out, or the ones that age out, right? So I started finding all these odds and these statistics, and I went, okay, I'm going to write about this. It's not necessarily I'm going to share something very personal per se. It's just, hey, here are the odds. I was fortunate enough to beat them. And then from there, it was just an explosion of like, oh my gosh, I got to talk to you. I would love for you to speak here. It was just an outpouring of love and encouragement that I needed so badly in that moment, because it's scary when you first start talking about those things.
Mm-hmm. Because they're personal and they're real, and maybe you don't see how you're the diamond in the rough, right? And it, I think for many of us, we can hear those statistics and we think, that's a pity, right? But then when you meet someone who is a face and a life and a person and a heart that can stand and say, I'm that one, it changes everything, because it makes it real and it makes it human. And the same thing is true, I think, for the foster care space in general. Like, you can have these perceptions in your head of like what a foster kid is, like a child in foster care. You can have all these perceptions, but as soon as like someone and you're playing with their kids, they see their kids, and all of a sudden like, oh yeah, I'm fostering, and you're like, wait, what? Like all of those like negative things you thought are gone, because they're real. Like, they're all of a sudden real and they're human. And CJ, I'm just so, like you said, I'm proud to know you. I am so excited about the journey you're on, to be able to encourage youth, and I think to awaken people that, we can look away from this really big issue. It is a pity that there's not enough families, but we don't have to stop there. Like, we can do something, one piece of that elephant at a time. And that can be share this podcast. That can be read CJ's book. It can be read my book. It can be talk to someone about it. That can be just go Google these odds, like, what are the statistics? And you can inform yourself and make yourself aware of really what's going on underneath of this. And so I want to just thank you for coming and being on the show. And it's been great to have a Southern accent, but it's been so exciting to celebrate the finding of your brother and to hear the reality of like what what is an adult that it spent time in foster care as a child? Like, how did she get there? And I think we've all taken away so much
Well,
from this. And I
thank
just
you.
want to
This
say
has
thank
been
you.
truly an honor, and I'm incredibly blessed to be a part of this and this journey with you. So I think that's the biggest thing, is being able to walk with you. And the more people that we have in this arena, the bigger things that we can do, and I'm super pumped about what the future holds for that. So thank you.
As a listener of the Forgotten Adoption Option podcast, you are helping raise awareness about foster care adoption and the 120,000 children who are waiting for a forever family. You can also help raise awareness by leaving a review, subscribing, sharing, talking about, and liking this podcast. If you'd like more information on adopting a child or sibling set through the foster care system, visit my website, ForgottenAdoptionOption.com. There you will find out how to get started, and you can even order a copy of my book, The Forgotten Adoption Option, which will guide you through the entire process, and it is available in paperback, audio, and ebook. I welcome you to reach out with questions, comments, and your own story. I would love to hear if you're signing up for training or where you are in the adoption process. You can connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just search for Marcy Bursack. Thank you for tuning in, caring, and sharing, because every child deserves a family.